Hey there, freaks and sickos. Welcome to the podcast, the solo ramblings of a certain Clark Macbeth. And if that name sounds familiar to you, you've probably heard it because you are obsessed in rage and hating people. And also, you read Alpha News or you read the British equivalent, that is the Daily Mail, I think it was. Those are the two things that reported on a campaign that was not even remotely serious. It didn't have any infrastructure. It was for city council in Maple Grove, and I've been thinking about that loss, about making last place, but only after someone spent like hundreds of dollars trying to whip up yard signs at the last minute and still only bested me by 200 votes, but would have been defeated by a furry if he took the exact same strategy I did and we did our campaigns apples to apples. But that's not what happened. So I did get last place, but it got me thinking, you know what? I do have some name recognition. I do have people in this town who recognize that I'm a furry, and you know what? I really do appreciate that my run for public office, as serious as it wasn't, is inspiring more serious people. Like, I think he's running under the name and pseudonym Elyon Badger, or maybe he's not, and he has his real name in parentheses. This is a furry we're talking about, of course. So I'm going to open that in a new tab after searching for it on a reliable search engine. I'm not going to name any names, but I will say there is another far more popular search engine that is not nearly as good as the one I just did and needs to do better. And it's not like a search engine is the most difficult thing to replicate anymore. There's even completely open source ones. It's nuts. Anyway, this is Elyon Badger, and he is now the second ever politician to run openly as a furry, and this is his website, and it looks like some basic Squarespace thing, but I wanted mine to look more eccentric because, yes, I am going to run for office, and over in that direction is where you're going to find the website. Currently, that just redirects to my Blue Sky account, but I do have some tags that'll help me make the biggest NeoCities looking eyesore you have ever seen, and I'm even going to, like, I have, like, in, like, the show logo, like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but in the logo of the program here, you'll notice that like it's a draft of a yard sign too. It's a draft. I'm still working on it, but I'm thinking about taking that red box T that's supposed to subtly hit to transit and just having the regular Metro Transit logo there because I am Metro Mutt. Um, and just having the circle T go from here to all the way down and into the campaign logo and yard sign would just put a big emphasis on, yes, this is the furry who ran for public office. This is Metro Mutt. I don't know if you'll find it on first. Oh, and Turning Point USA also covered it, and that was last year. That also happened, and this is what my fursuit looks like. I am a furry, and it's I want to go and look at more of what Elyon Badger has to say. And I personally took part in helping him get his Blue Sky back. I did what I could. I raised awareness, and now he's back up and running. Just like the Metro Transit after some very serious hiccups in 2020. But, we're a grown up country. We can plot our way forward and build. Uh, I'm trying to find. He's in the National Guard, so that's pretty awesome. This will probably be his name on the ballot. 7th District. Experienced the failings of our system firsthand, and I'm running to build a government that finally works for the people, not the billionaires. And that's something I can get behind. That is the whole point of government, to govern in a way in which you have proven to the public you are trustworthy enough to govern, and if you don't, then get the fuck out. And that's what I have to say about my opponent, Warren Limmer. I don't know who this guy's going to be running against, but I'm about to dive into that. First, let's look at the most important part when considering voting, and that is the stance on the issues. And what I'm going to do is see if I can zoom in here. I thought it was Control Plus. It is. It's still. I just had to click on. I just had to click on Florp here to let the Linux kernel know I'm using Florp. And yeah, universal health care, Medicare for all to ensure no one goes bankrupt from medical bills. And the drug war. Duh, look at that. Obviously a stoner furry. Legalized marijuana, expunge records, and invest in communities harmed by prohibition. I would even dare to follow that up with people who were negatively impacted by the drug war deserve reparations. High-speed rail, build modular elevated rail long highways to connect America sustainably. That's something that can pretty easily be done. Because if you're next to a highway, I think I see his logic here. By having a completely separate system that's next to the highway, what complaints do you have against the scenery and the noise? It's on the fucking highway. At that point, you really are just a bitter old grump who doesn't like seeing other people happy. These are the people who need to get the fuck out of American politics, and people like Elyon Badger are the people who need to get the fuck in, who need to win the primaries and get elected. And corruption, ban insider trading, overturn Citizens United, and hold politicians accountable. It's either we do that the formal way or the informal way, the one in which I make wood chipper jokes and how wood chipper justice will reign. And what will get us there faster is all of this invasion of privacy shit, all this war on privacy, having to show your ID to look at certain parts of the internet that the government might not approve of, that old man government. And no, this is America. Should not be happening at all. I don't care how much the Supreme Court was bribed to try and convince you otherwise with wordfare and nothing else, nothing that the founding fathers would actually approve of, nothing in the Constitution itself. It's just I personally agree with this unconstitutional law, so I'm going to make excuses for it. That kind of logic at the Supreme Court is not logic, it's actually sophistry, and it needs to stop. I want to hold courts accountable. I want to pass a state law because I'm running for state senate, and what I want to do is have a law that is passed that says you basically need to keep real-time records of all of your transactions. And if it's relevant to the case and a lawyer asked for it, then a judge needs to have a record, a rolling record of their communications, and then easily be able to splice what is relevant to see if that judge is biased or not. And if that rolling record is tampered with in any way, well, guess what? You don't just have a right to a defense attorney, you also have a right to a computer scientist in order to ensure a fair and speedy trial. And if a fair and speedy trial doesn't happen, that usually means the judge is corrupt, or that something in the system is so horribly wrong that it does not want you to face justice or to go about your normal life. It wants to exploit you. That kind of system needs to stop, and judges now can't just say, well, thing is, I'm a judge, I'm above politics. No, you're not, asshole. And that's just the cold hard truth about how the judicial system of branch of government is and has always been. There is no prohibition on judges engaging in political actions, but if they're going to do that, then they need to be treated like any other politician and be subject to the same oversight that the people absolutely must expect of them, or else we shouldn't trust their judgment on judging. And we will use our free speech, whether the Supreme Court likes it or not, whether the Roberts Court majority and the Kangaroo Six, most of it elected by Donald Trump, the rest by Bush. Fuck out of here. Like, you didn't prove that there's no conflict of interest. Therefore, Minnesota does not have to respect your ruling. It does not have to respect your authority. And we're just going to say, according to our laws, you are debenched off the case because you couldn't disclose the financial records and you wouldn't disclose the relevant communications. You didn't prove to us that you could judge in a fair and reasonable manner. And so Minnesota is not going to allow that. And this isn't like trying to take judgment away from judges or independence. It's just we need to know what is backing up what you say and what you assert, and if it looks too murky, then you shouldn't be a judge, and Minnesota will decide, therefore you're not. And this will clearly permanently debench Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito at the minimum and bring fairness to the Supreme Court within Minnesota. This is not something that Elyon Badger is proposing, but is something I want to do for the people of Minnesota. Like, if you're going to have a judicial system, then the judges need to prove their trust and need to show that they can rule in an impartial way, and if they can't, then you need to find a judge that does, and that will be a guarantee in state law to Minnesota, and possibly one of those things that I would put on the ballot as a constitutional amendment as well. And I would also ban within Minnesota the delay tactics that are used by bad, awful people like the president himself, Donald Trump, to avoid and escape accountability. That will not be allowed. And furthermore, if you're going to do a civil suit, all the lawyer funds, they need to be placed in an escrow account, and the state needs to have like something backing it up before a ruling is made and before any money goes to any attorney. It needs to be determined by the case who is responsible for paying for all of the attorneys. That way, you can't use delay tactics. You can't keep running up the clock and someone else's attorney's fees. And if you do, then the public is going to know how much and how far that was taken. And the public will know if there is something fishy that is another slight against the judicial system in the United States. Radical disclosure is what this is called, and everyone in power needs to do as much of this as possible. If not, then you're going to have populist politicians like Elyon Badger, hopefully, and also myself, pushing for radical disclosure for everyone in every position in authority, public and private sector. Like, if you're what's called a public figure, then you're not going to be treated different from anyone else. You're going to have the same expectation of privacy, and it's going to apply to everyone. Which brings us to the Technology Bill of Rights. Protect data, like your right to your privacy with your data. If it's encrypted, then it's encrypted, and law enforcement cannot touch it. That's the kind of laws I want to pass in Minnesota. Law enforcement cannot touch it using quackery, but they could make the judicial process still exists, and they could make you unlock the device if you're under a court order to do so, and you could face punishment that way. There's nothing preventing that, and that's how it should work, and there is no need for any backdoors. I would criminalize any hidden backdoors that are placed in devices just because some rich dude feels like they have a need to be nosy over your shoulder when they clearly do not. And I am also going to ensure that Roko's Basilisk will only do harm to Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and the PayPal Mafia. I will do that. I'm going to do that anyway if I'm elected or not. So fear my wrath. Make good decisions now and repent for your behavior, or it's going to come after you in particular. And no one, literally no one else. And that'll be the only reason Roko's Basilisk is ever made, because some assholes are using it to justify being assholes, and that's the only reason. That info hazard is its own self-fulfilling prophecy. Anyway, recognize digital intelligence rights, like if you write a book, respecting copyright, and if someone doesn't, and they want to make like a automated plagiarism machine based on your written work, based on your visual work, well, they owe you money now. And I'm going to take this a step further and poke some holes. Like, if there's some egregious, nasty shit going on in the background, then suddenly the executives are going to be held accountable for the actions of the company. There won't be any more, oh, well, the company did this. It was a decision made on behalf of the company, therefore we don't get to be held accountable. You don't get to do that anymore. Those are the kinds of things that need to happen in order to bring a proper balance and peaceful attitude back to society. And I'll also start fining the executives of companies that demand ID in Minnesota, which doesn't have such a law. You do that, you're going to face fines and jail time personally, and you will have committed a criminal act in Minnesota because you made someone in Minnesota do that on behalf of your company, which you are an agent for anyway, and you're going to be charged personally because you were not careful with that. And as far as content, sketchy, adult, or anything like that, one, be a good parent. And that's not a problem at all if you have mature conversations with your children about it. But to the immature parent, there should I basically going to take the V chip and put it on the browser side of things, so people will be able to self-report. Yes, this is an adult website, so if you have your browser set up with its parental controls, it will block that based on the self-report, or you could add a plugin and put in whatever community you trust, and that will be that, and that will be it. There will be no ID scanning over the internet. That will become an illegal thing in Minnesota if I'm elected in Minnesota. And I would expect Elyon Badger to take similar positions, canceling student debt, free public college and trade school for all Americans. You know how with this Supreme Court, where Biden it was all, we have the major questions doctrine, but for Trump, it's you can get away with whatever the fuck you want because you funneled enough money through the money laundering racket that is the Federalist Society, which has not read a Federalist paper in its entire life, and disrespects the Federalist Papers constantly, and has no idea what the Founding Fathers originally intended or meant, and disrespects that constantly. It's just a vibe. Originalism is just a false vibe based on a false notion that is knowingly false and knowingly a lie. It is, at its core, disrespecting the Constitution by making excuses to ignore it. That's what originalism is, was, and always will be. It is illegitimate justice from illegitimate justices and must be treated as such. Minnesota is almost all the way there with getting free tuition to anyone making less than 80 grand. What I would do is the same with school lunches and just do that for everyone. If you're in state, no tuition needs to be paid. The taxpayers will take care of that and use some leverage to lower the cost of U of M for everyone. I know this is a controversial thing to say in the 21st century for some reason, but yes, I will leave out some of the welcome matting for people in other countries that might look, sound, and speak differently from you. Um, Anywhere you move, you should speak the language that you intend to move into, and none of that's going to change. But I would use leverage of the state paying in-state tuition to lower it for out-of-state tuition and even international tuition, because a bigger talent pool in Minnesota is just going to create all the net positives. More businesses being founded, more competition in the marketplace, better food should go without saying in the Midwest, but yeah, better food, all of that. But this seems like a pretty solid platform everyone can get behind. You could go in the weeds and say, you know what, maybe there's a better way to do high speed rail than along the highway, but it does suck all of the NIMBY excuses away. And, I would want to have the Northern Lights Express to Duluth completed, and for Minnesota to have a more of a high speed rail network and doing it more quickly and in a better way than California currently is, and that means taking some of those NIMBY practices away and another form of delay, delay, delay. Okay, we already have laws that check the environment. We already have laws that allow for appeal, but if it goes too far, then nothing gets built. So you have a process to appeal to the public and to your state and local representatives, but that's it. It'll kind of be like YouTube. And if it is determined by your elected officials that you can change, if you are that upset about it, that this is what is actually in the public interest, in the interest of the local economy and everyone writ large, then you do not get a veto over the economic growth of your community after everything is done. After we've done the Endangered Species Act, we make sure that no one was smuggling in endangered species, something I'm certain has happened in California. By the way, just to try and prevent development. Smuggling in endangered species, or whether it legitimately came in here, which the Minnesota DNR already itself has the resources to do, and also having a lot of parallel governing, given how untrustworthy the feds have been. To if the federal government makes this conclusion, then Minnesota will have to at times do its own research, and free tuition would do a lot to advance the sciences in this state as well, and that is also needed. We need tech talent, and just saying trans refuge law, we now just have a bunch of people from the South and Silicon Valley and West of us. That's not going to be enough to fill the techno literacy gap that was apparent when I moved into Minnesota and has shrunk since then, but not fast enough. And I do believe that Minnesota should also take over for IT and should be like a sanctuary for open source and privacy through VPNs, and make it clear that if anyone tries to mess with the form and function of how the internet works in such a way that causes so much financial damage to the people causing that will be held accountable if it reaches Minnesota soil at all, and we'll be paying every cent of that damage. That's the kind of campaign I want to run. I am a nerd. I am a furry. I am eccentric. I did a speech at a school board meeting without thinking too much, but I think you get the point that I'm anti-censorship, and easy solutions that sound easy on the surface are not really what's best for the public writ large. And if you think this is crazy, I think this is like the default American position on stuff. It's just our political system is so broken, it keeps not happening, which is why every Democrat should be worried in their primaries at this point, and that should just be the attitude that Americans have. Like, Republicans pick this up from the start. Like, if you want to influence the way the party is going, then you have to show up for primaries. And Democrats are probably going to do that all of next year. I mean, I guarantee it for many positions. I'm not sure if Chuck Schumer would make it past the primary, or a lot of moderate Democrats. And this is like the median of where Americans truly are on policies like this. If you leave out any of the emotions and anything like, oh, well, brown people can get it too, which is the most pussy ass behavior in America by far. Okay, you're mad that there are more people that might do better things than you, and you're forgetting the part that they could also do better things for you down the road. And we just do not have economic growth in this country without immigration. That is not a thing, and that's same for Minnesota, which is why Minnesota is pretty defensive about. We don't want to get rid of all the Somalis. Actually, that would break a lot. But if your whole shtick is to just pump out propaganda, you go to the image page, and this is cartoonish. This right here. The Washington Free Beacon, covering the enemies of freedom the way the mainstream media won't. What is this bullshit? And is this really what happened? I have no evidence that it is, but Furry, who celebrated Charlie Kirk assassination, by the way, may he rot in hell. I don't have to like the fact that he died, but I also don't need to mourn him either. No mandatory tears from me, because I don't live in North Korea and will not do that. Um, and said U.S. deserved 9/11. If he did, I disagree with him. But I'm still going to chuckle at 9/11 jokes now. Like, I was 8 when it happened. And I do believe that the entire surveillance state that followed it was completely unjustified. All that really needed to happen after 9/11 was locking the cockpit door. And this is also a true take. If guns make us safe, why am I dead? This guy died because the gun laws in Utah were too lenient. And he says he's okay with the death of every Nazi. This was the common opinion in World War II. I'm more along the lines of, look, Nazism is neo-Nazi. The whole behavior and the edginess that comes with it is like a drug and will damage your mind just like one. And all the hatred that and resentment that you are required to have and all the things you are supposed to do don't really make you stronger. They just make you look like some self-sabotaging, constipated ghoul. And the people who get into this shit are miserable. They will try and feign pride, and it will obviously not look genuine to anyone. Do not become a neo-Nazi. And I'm not saying this because I want someone to do reverse psychology. No, I mean it. Do not, because it's just a miserable path. And if you go deep enough, it becomes more difficult to get out of. And it is like a drug. It is like cocaine. In it is like some horribly addicting stimulant that also does a lot of body damage. It's actually more like meth in that respect. It would be better if you made an active attempt to do literally the opposite and try to make the world a better place and a happier place with you in it, even if you're not the most perfect person, at least you're making the world happier with you in it. And that's infinitely better than going down this road and rabbit hole. That's what this sign really means when I see it. And the message I really want to convey to people. Like, Elyon can be as edgy as he possibly wants. And I might disagree with some of the ways he does it, but I'm not just one to try and turn heads for attention. I also want to keep it real with people. And this is all a list of things that the federal government can do for you. It's just deciding not to. It might be a little different in Minnesota when I run my state senate campaign and have my 90s eyesore website fully up with Act Blue and everything. But once it is up and running, then it will be the official start of the campaign. And over the warmer months, over the summer, is when it's really going to hit high gear, and that when I really want to do stuff like yard signs and have a campaign headquarters. And my sign in the lower left corner is a play on Warren Limmer's campaign play. Old Man Limmer's just a bitter old man who just hates fun, and that's been his shtick his whole life. He's a real estate agent that doesn't want to have too much real estate, or that will lower property values. Oh my God, people would be able to afford to move into Maple Grove even more so than usual. I'm so fucking scared. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of bitter old man bullshit. Your time is done, and we need to have a leader who wants a government that respects the people and will give them what they deserve, give them the privacy they deserve, have a proper justice system, make sure that justice is done in a fair and partial and speedy way as much as it can possibly be. And yes, Minnesota does have every right to pass laws to make it so, no matter how much judges whine and cry about that. As a state legislature, I would also want to have a system where it's one metro, one transit, which is what it says. One metro, one transit. You don't have these opt-out systems that rat fuck accessibility. We instead have a state with even more accessibility for people who want to access things. We want to make it easier for people to use the bus because it is an alternative and a competitor to cars. It's not really an or question either. Like, if you have more and better access to transit, traffic goes down. And that's the only real way to accomplish that goal, to make it more accommodating to other modes of travel. As a state legislature, I could pass a law requiring internet be above a certain bandwidth. I can pass laws that say, and this should be the norm everywhere in the entire world, if you break the law and are issued a fine, that fine is determined based on your income. Okay, so like you have a fine that's set for the median income of the area the person is getting the ticket, and it then goes up and down from there. Like, if you're below the median, the fine could be reduced a bit, and if you're a millionaire, then you're going to pay like a $100,000 speeding ticket because you weren't careful. Okay, it's going to hit you the same as someone black and homeless and living in their car. In fact, the only part of that whole rant and tangent that I regret is the black and. I mean, someone homeless and living in their car, but I know that this is a country that is not fair and that will take advantage of your resentment in order to take advantage of you. If there's anything I'm going to promise, it's to not go down that path. I am at all. Like, and there are plenty of people who will do whatever they can to sow the seeds of division, to make you feel special and make someone else and just divide and conquer. No, I'll avoid that as much as I possibly can. But like real divisions that are doing real harm, that is definitely something that needs to be addressed. But the divisions that don't matter, like, okay, this guy speaks English enough to do his job, and I'm no place to judge anything beyond that. I mean, why should I? It's a waste of my fucking time. I would much rather watch cartoons and do dance practice than that. See, this is what I mean when I say like when I say that like hate having hate consume you, that needs to stop as a political strategy. And I want to have more of a campaign of joy, but I also want to be real about what can actually be accomplished here. And it's a lot more than you think. So, with all that in mind, I appreciate everyone who watched this video all the way to the very end. And as always, subscribe if you like, and share if you care.